Hey, what's up, guys? Houston McMillan here. Look, if you received a letter in the mail, you received an email, or you even seen a YouTube video explaining to you about the shutdown of your Capital One Walmart Rewards credit card, well, let me explain something to you that's going to help you understand this better. Number one, if they shut down your card, okay, because of the relationship between Walmart and Capital One, that will not affect your credit score. All right. So that's number one. Number two, if they discontinue this card, in which they are, this will not affect your history on your credit file. All right. Now, what's happening is that with Capital One, they decide that they're going to actually move you over to this Quicksilver card. All right. So they're moving you over to this Quicksilver card, right? Which is one of their lower tier cards. Now, here's the thing about it why so many people had been applying for the Walmart card. Here's the situation. A lot of people that shop at Walmart at that time or whatever, I guess they may have subpar credit. Okay. And I've seen people with brand new, no credit history get approved for the Walmart Capital One card. All right. So some people with a 500 credit score got the Walmart card. Put a comment below if you remember what your average credit score was when you actually got this here card. Now, here's the thing about it why Walmart decided they didn't want to have a relationship with Capital One anymore. Maybe this can make some sense. A lot of people have been complaining that with Capital One, and I made a video back that with Capital One, they had been mistreating Walmart customers with this card. Okay, people would make their payments, they would post their payment late, they would call in to try to make arrangements to make a payment. So Capital One was not willing to work with them. All right, and it started to create a bigger headache for Walmart, right? Because people were like, well, I'm just not going to use the card, and they, again, they said because of Capital One, the treatment that they got with Capital One. Now, what would I do if I'm already have a Capital One Walmart card and they move me over to the Quicksilver? All right. Now, they are going to, whatever your balance is with Walmart, Capital One, that's going to be the same balance with your Quicksilver. All right. But for some people, they don't like Capital One, period. Right. So for you, if you just didn't want to deal with Capital One and you only wanted to Walmart, then there are some alternative cards you should take a look at. And let me show you. And these are easier cards to get approved for, and that you can shop at Walmart as well. All right. So then you have a BCU, Baxter Credit Union. Okay. Now, here's the thing about it that I want to go back and understand. With Capital One, when you decide that you was going to do a pre-approval or when they transferred you over to this here credit card and you decide, hey, I want to get a credit limit increase. Well, to get a credit limit increase with the Capital One Quicksilver, and we'll get back to the BCU. I just want you to understand this. You have to go in the app and you would have to update your income and your rent payment to see if you qualify for a increase, right? And so if this doesn't happen, people were frustrated with Capital One because they just kept them at that limit. So that's why I was telling people if they're just going to keep you at a certain limit after you updated your income and they updated your rent and they would not, then I would go to much easier institutions to get a higher limit. So that's where BCU, Baxter Credit Union, comes in. And the reason is with Baxter Credit Union, they use a Vantage 3 score, TransUnion, okay? And so with their credit cards, again, your Vantage score is so much more flexible than with the Capital One FICO score. See, Capital One uses your FICO score, and they pull all three credit bureaus. Now, you could lock up two of those files, and that would force them to pull like a TransUnion for the Quicksilver card. They'll just pull the TransUnion, right? So if you want just the Quicksilver card, that's a backdoor hack. Lock up your Experian and your Equifax, and they'll pull directly from your TransUnion if that's your highest score, okay, for your Quicksilver. Now, going back to BCU, BCU is strictly TransUnion, okay? TransUnion Vantage Score 3, all right? And so, because it's a Vantage Score, this is where you, as the individual, as the consumer, will have the leverage. Is because your Vantage Score is usually going to be higher than your FICO score, okay? Your FICO 8 score, right? And the reason that your FICO 8, your Vantage 3 score is going to be higher than your FICO 8 score is because you can add your rental payments, you can add your utility payments, you can add authorized users, as well as subscriptions, right? So you can add those four things in order to get approved, okay? Now, one of the things about BCU I want to tell you guys is you would have to join through their organization if you are not a family related or whatever. They have an organization they use called Life Money U, which is $5. But when you join, they'll actually waive that $5. Now, when you join, I always tell people is I would get three types of accounts. All right. I would get a checking account, a savings account, and maybe like a CD or a money market account. The reason is you want to show longevity and build the relationship so that you can get higher increases. Now, with BCU, they also offer business credit cards as well. Okay, so this is one option for you, this BCU. Then you have another one, another low hanging fruit that you can actually join. This is a Veridian. Now, the thing about it with Veridian, they also use a Vantage 3. Okay. And so what that means is that with the Vantage 3, again, TransUnion, it's much easier for you to get approved for these here credit cards. Now, with both of these here credit unions, anybody can join. They're non-geo restricted. So anybody can join. All right. And because they are credit unions, most of the time, in reference to getting higher limits, they may start you out with a higher limit where Walmart was only giving people like $1,000, right? Capital One $1,000. With the Quicksilver, they may give you 3,000, right? But with BCU and Veridian, they'll probably start you out with about $5,000, right? And so they have more flexibility to give you a higher limit. All right. Now, you would have to join the Habitat for Humanities to actually get this here card with Veridian, which is about, I think it's between 10 to 15 bucks or whatever, but at the same time it's worth it because I know that they give you higher limits than the Walmart. Now, another institution you may want to consider is Wells Fargo, okay? And I know some people may not like Wells Fargo, but one of the plus things about Wells Fargo that people are not aware, Wells Fargo uses a FICO 9 scoring system. That's right. They use Experian FICO 9, right? And again, just like with your Vantage score, you can have an authorized user on the file. You can have subscriptions on the file. You can have rental payments on the file, okay? So that's the reason why Wells Fargo. And another thing about Wells Fargo credit cards, when they give you these credit cards, they actually will send you out convenience checks to where you can actually liquidate the credit card and put the money into your checking account and use it how you want to. All right. And some of the best Wells Fargo cards, as you can see here, is like your active. Reason is because look, on purchases and balance transfers, 15 months on purchases and balance transfer. That's the reason that's a great card. I'll tell you another one that's a great card. Here's the autograph card. It's a new card that they had released, 12 months purchases right? And then you have this one. This is the best one, I think. This is the Reflect card on purchases and balance transfer, 21 months of no interest, right? So if you don't want to deal with Capital One and their cards and stuff, now again, this is FICO 9. So your average credit score, even for that Walmart, like I said, I've seen Walmart people get it with no credit or at least 500 credit score, right? But when you come to Capital One, they usually want you to have about a 660. Now, if you have bad credit, they do have alternative ones, alternative credit cards for bad credit. But with that Quicksilver, say that you was going for that Quicksilver card, they still want you to have at least a 660 credit score. All right. So that's the reason why I tell you guys is you should really look around at alternatives. Like even with Navy Federal. Now, many of us know that Navy Federal is very flexible, right? Once you're able to join and stuff, and because with Navy Federal, they usually will give you above 5,000. Now, if you have real bad credit, they start you out with a security card, but after 6 months, it goes into 2,000. But if you have a high internal score, with Navy Federal. And what I mean by that, your internal score goes from 100 up to 450. So if you're in the 300 range, then you're more likely to get a $5,000 or higher credit score. And the way to do that, you would have to have a checking account with them. You would have to have a savings account with them especially when you have bad credit. You would have to have a pledge loan. You would have to have a N rewards card. And also, one other thing is that making sure that you either have a CD or money market account. All right. So by you having multiple accounts with them, then you're able to leverage your bad credit. And again, people have gotten up to $25,000, right? So again, for those of you that just don't want to deal with Capital One, if they switch you over to the Quicksilver and you tried the Capital One hack and they wouldn't give you a credit limit, look at these other alternative cards so that you'll be able to get the maximum amount of funding that you need. So if you have any other questions about business credit funding, personal credit funding, removing negative items off the credit, click the link in the description. Schedule a one-on-one consultation. Thank you.